What's going on, CALIVEGANs, and welcome into another episode of the CALIVEGAN podcast, the only podcast, calisthenics podcast, for vegan men who wants to build muscle. Today is a special episode. We're actually not going to talk about calisthenics. We're going to have a running coach. I think he's done a few ultra marathon runs, which, whether you win, you don't win, just, finishing a ultra marathon, it's absolutely, I don't know. Can you see yourself running more than 40 kilometers? I think it's crazy. But it's actually a goal of mine in the long run. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know if you have any other questions about what we're going to talk about. What we're going to talk about. Follow me and follow Daniel, which is joining us in just a second. Just entered the room, and I met Daniel online in a weird way. We are in the same business coaching course, but this is how we actually met, and he's vegan as well. So he contacted me. I was like, yeah, you are also in the business thing, and I noticed you're vegan as well. All right, so let's see if this works. I guess it's the internet that sometimes is not helping us, but hopefully problem will be solved soon. All right, so I have invited you. Let's see. Will we be able to do this? We will know. So let me follow him. I think I didn't follow him, so maybe that's why I don't see the invite. Now, the reason I wanted him to come on board because I think running is something that really changed my life. One of the best things that happened to me to start running for different reasons. It improved my asthma symptoms, and it's easy to get out there and go for a run and burn some extra calories. But this is it seems like it's not working. I'm accepting the request. I am doing everything like possible to get him on board. It says that he is invited. I don't know what else I can do. Turn on video.
Oh,
maybe.
Oh, here we are. Finally.
All right, we did it.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, but here we are.
All right. So the something is happening. I actually cannot see you, but it's fine. It's probably some internet thing. I don't know. What if I change? No, I cannot see you.
Maybe let us guys know us if you see me.
Yeah, they should be able. This is a technical thing that happened once already. So Daniel, nice to meet you. How you doing?
Nice to meet you too. I'm excited to share with you and your followers maybe some passion about running, some insights that they can use. So yeah, what about you?
I'm good, man. It's super hot in here. Like summer in Spain gets very hot, and I did like to. I do like to run when it's hot, actually, because I actually, having asthma, and when it's cold weather, it actually inflames the lungs.
Okay.
So running with heat is better. It's weird. I feel like most people don't like to run under the heat. They prefer some kind of colder weather. But yeah, Daniel, if you want to kind of introduce yourself, because obviously I also don't know much about you, like what you do as a coach, and also like what's your experience with running? Like, why are you a running coach?
Right. So, first and foremost, thank you very much for inviting me and giving me opportunity to share with your followers and yourself what I know, what I do. And my journey started probably about 8 years ago. I wanted to lose weight, so I started like exercising also with body weight, doing like Tabata workouts, some running later. I actually started running only because I signed up for a Spartan race. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Soon after the for Spartan race, where I've been for like 4 years now, and it is also connected to my vegan journey because when I started running, at that time I had like general omnivorous diet. I had also a lot of eczema problems and such, besides being like having few kilos overweight. And so I started looking for how probably nutrition can help me solve these issues or help me because nobody wants to go running and feel heavy, right? So
Yeah.
I started looking into nutrition. I started to play with foods and so on. I made a lot of mistakes, and actually I found that vegan diet helps me to recover better, to perform better when running. I felt lighter because I was not full of meat. You know, meat takes longer to digest.
So let me stop you there. So you approached veganism at first with a plant-based diet, like because of health reasons.
Yes, totally.
All right. Yeah.
So, so that helped me actually tremendously with eczema. I haven't had eczema for a few years, and that's my dog. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I fell in love with running, with obstacle course racing. I don't like just running only. So I like to combine it with strength training, calisthenics. You know, this I think it's a healthier approach to fitness, and I do that mostly for health nowadays. And that is also what I help basically people with to fuel properly for their running so they can enjoy that, achieve their body composition goals, clean out and so on, and not like do stupid things in nutrition, because in a running community specifically there are a lot of people from very different backgrounds, and they do a lot of things that don't really help them with running, with body composition or general health.
Yeah. So what I was curious to ask is that I think I saw on your account that you did do a, ultra marathon run.
Or
Am I correct?
right, like actually you have different distances at Spartan race. So we have sprint, which is like 5 kilometers, then 10 kilometers, 21 kilometers, and then you have also Spartan Ultra. And when I started running, I really loved that idea, of going long and slow, basically. So I did two Spartan Ultra races back a few years ago.
Okay, so is it 40 kilometers, the Spartan Ultra?
Yeah, Spartan Ultra is like 40 to 50 kilometers. There is elevation usually is about 2 to 3,000 meters. And of course, you have obstacles there. So there are about 60 obstacles in that. So generally, it takes, depending on the course, but some people can get it in like elite athletes in 6 7 hours. Average people, or more than average, at about like 12 hours, let's say. And there is like cutoff time probably at about 18 hours. It depends, it changes.
It's cool. It sounds fun, man. I would like to do a Spartan race. It's a long time I'm thinking about doing one, but just haven't been able to organize it. So
Yeah.
I want to know more about your vegan story as well. Like how, it started with the nutrition part, but I think you also made, the connection with ethics later on. So tell me more. How did it go? How did you connect with the animals? And how did your vegan journey develop?
Oh, okay. So from the ethical perspective and so on, I can say that I live in a village and I grown up on a village. So we always kept animals. I think that a lot of people, especially those living in cities and bigger, probably, yeah, in cities, lack that connection between food and uh, how it is grown or how it is produced. So even when we speak about vegetables, usually you see produce on the shelves of the market. You don't make that connection. Somebody has to grow it and so on. And from my early childhood, even though I loved meat, and eating meat, I was living in a village. I didn't like killing animals, and I was part of that. Whether I liked it or not, like when you like kill animals for
Wow.
food, for meat, you know.
Did you do it yourself?
Yes. And that was one of the defining moments, because I decided like I don't want to take that life. Like, and actually there are several people who, like my father, for example, who lived in a village. He liked eating meat and so on, but I really hated killing animals. So
Well,
that's why.
right now I'm getting goosebumps because it's inspiring that someone that was so ingrained in this kind of culture was in the act of killing animals. Because I was surrounded as well from farms, like family farms with animals, and I saw animals being killed, but I never did it myself. Yeah,
Right.
I never did it myself. And for me, really, I was kind of the opposite of you. I think, for what I understand, you were like, I don't want to kill animals. While you were kind of doing it, you were already realizing. But personally, I never saw what I was seeing in my neighbors. Um, what I was seeing my neighbors doing to the animals as something bad. Actually, I was just looking at animals as something lesser than us. So, did you go vegan while living with your family?
Oh, yes, I did this. I actually, just before turning vegan, because as I mentioned, it was for health. So I started like reducing sugar first and doing these kind of things. So I was eating like kind of paleo diet at that time. and I was like, okay, I had enough of eating that way. I always enjoyed eating vegetables. Like I'm not a fruit person, I'm a vegetable person, and so for me that transition was kind of easy. I was also introduced to foods like tofu, for example, which is not common here, or was not common here. In my childhood, I remember we had this meal in a restaurant because my mother was on a diet, so she chose like tofu with vegetables with rice, and that's like
Mhm.
I was maybe 9 years old or so. I tried it and I really loved it. So there's like the kind of meals that stayed in our meal plan, let's say, or typical rotation. And I always loved bean soups and so on, which are kind of traditional in our culture, but it's not used anymore. I mean, people use more modern foods. At least here, it's like very meat heavy in Slovakia.
Yeah, I think kind of everywhere is like that, one way or another. But yeah, great man. It was inspiring. It was a great story actually. So, how long have you been vegan?
I think it's approximately this 7, 8 years now.
Oh,
So
okay,
I
so
think I think yeah, it's since 2016. So yeah,
sounds good. So let's get to running then.
right.
Okay, I love running. Like I used to hate running. You saw the reel, and I used to hate running. But I started to run because I guess one of the main reason I started to run was actually because of my asthma.
Right.
So I've got asthma, and I always kind of managed with sports, but then there was a point in my life where I was doing only strength training, not much cardio, and so I I started to have more symptoms, and this is how I started to get into running, um, and it did help with my asthma. So when and one of the problems that I had with running this that was very hard in the beginning for me to run, like 10 minutes and I was dead. And the other problem that I had is that I kept getting injured, like my shin would get very, very inflamed to the point that I had to stop running sometimes. So how do beginners should approach running to kind of avoid these things?
That's actually an excellent question because I, I don't know a runner who didn't get injured in the beginning. I myself got injured like in the first 2 years of running, like multiple times, and I also remember probably my first 5 kilometer run. My calves hurt for like 2 weeks, probably. I was barely walking after that run for a few days. So it's easy to overdo it, definitely. So you should really, for some, depending on your conditioning, what you did before, if you are used to, for example, walking a lot, it's easier for you because your legs are used to that kind of load, even though it's not running. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but even if you come from a different sport like cycling or maybe ice hockey or whatever, running is much more stressful on your legs, joints, and so on. And what we don't realize is that there is a lot of impact force. So with every step, you are putting approximately like 6 times your body weight on that leg while running, and that's a lot. Your muscles adjust very quickly in terms of like days or weeks, but the joints, they take much longer. So this can take months to even years. And also your cardiovascular system, it gets like you get fit quite quickly. So you really should take it slow, the journey, and there is this kind of guide to just increase your running by about 10%. So if you are starting, maybe start 10 kilometer a week, like you go for like walk, run, walk, run, walk, run. So let's say 1 minute walking, 1 minute running, this kind of interval. It might be too easy for you, but don't overdo it, really. There is no hurry. And
yeah, I think it's an important point to go slow with running, because then if you get injured, you cannot run. as
yeah,
simple as that, right?
that's like in every sport, like the biggest problem in advancement at every level is inability to practice. So if you get hurt, if you get injured, you cannot practice, you cannot get better, and you are even regressing. So yeah, take it slowly and progress by about 10%, let's say, every week. So if you start, let's say, you are fit and you can run 5 kilometers first week, next week it will be like 5 kilometers and about, I don't know, 500 meters and so on. So it's like really very little, but yeah, I would rather be conservative with this.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an important point. And what are like some goals that beginners have when it comes to running, or what are the first milestones? I think for me, obviously, was running the 5K run for the first time. That was a long time ago. And then one of my biggest achievements overall in running, I think, is that now I can run easy. So now I can have my 10K run and it's just enjoyable. It's not really necessarily hard. I can go a bit faster if I want. If not, I'm listening to a book, and it's just enjoyable. And this is something that I would have never imagined it could happen in my life. Like
Right.
since I was, running felt so hard. So for me, that's a huge achievement. I also ran half marathon, but I think the biggest achievement is being able to just run without, like, it's almost like a walk in the park. So yeah, what are some good achievement that beginners should aim for?
Uh, I think that is very personal because, I know runners who are just starting and they started running because their goal is to run a marathon, and then there is a big uh, proportion of people, runners, who start running because they want to lose weight. It's very easy to access, you can start running anytime, anywhere. So that's what I love about that sport. And it can help you lose weight, right? And then there is a lot of people who use it to clear their head. Like you said, you can maybe enjoy audiobook or whatever. They work a stressful job, maybe in the office or whatever. So after that work, they go on a run to clear their head, and that's kind of, distressing. So I wouldn't put any kind of goal, but it's like with that progression, right? You enjoy it. If you start by walking, running, uh, like from my own perspective, it would be probably you start running, and like you said, being able to enjoy it, just doing that kind of training, because when you enjoy it, you will be doing it for longer. Maybe you decide, okay, I want to pursue half marathon or whatever, and maybe you stay at that. I don't know, I run 3 times a week or whatever, just to keep my general fitness, or I use it as a strategy to boost my fat loss, for example, during certain periods of time. It really depends.
Yeah, that's what I like of running. Probably is that I think when it comes to, because you said it, like if you want to lose weight, you want to lose fat, running can help. Obviously, diet is going to be key factor, because if you overeat, you're not going to lose weight. But for me, for example, that I am an anxious person when it comes to food, and I'm usually kind of always getting up and going for a snack, let's say. Um, it's easy for me to eat a little bit more calories, and it's important for me, if I want to stay lean, to do that hour of cardio per day. And running is the easier to approach. You put on your shoes, get out and run. And so I think it's a tool that is very beneficial for people if they want to lose fat, and obviously also stay with a good cardio level, because it makes it easier, easy.
Well,
So
I would interrupt you here because when we speak about running, nutrition, and weight loss, specifically in this context, I see that a lot of runners actually develop that idea that, it starts with running and they do it for burning calories. That creates a very unhealthy relationship with food, and that's a huge problem nowadays. So they moderate their eating, so they then don't change their eating habits, and they try to out-exercise their diet, which doesn't work because you can eat much more calories and whatever. Or they create that mindset around it that, okay, if I don't go running, I don't eat this. So it becomes like there is like a fine line between it being like kind of helpful and mentally restrictive, even going into disordered eating territory. It happens too often with running and running communities. So I want to warn people like, yeah, it's fine to boost your like energy expenditure through running, just don't be a slave to it. And on the other side, it's not that efficient, especially when you don't address nutrition. Specifically, what we can see from also studies is that people who start running, so if you are a couch potato, you start running or whatever, you suddenly start losing weight, and that's exciting. And that's approximately about 10% of body weight. But then you hit a plateau and you cannot move. So you can just probably, well, first, you need to also mind your nutrition. And from the long-term perspective, what we also see, people who only start running and maybe even increase their mileage and distance they run and so on, they start gaining weight back because you run more, you get more hungry. It's not like you just have higher energy expenditure, right? Maybe something real. But also running slow and so on, it can also blunt appetite to some extent. So it's very complex situation, like between that energy expenditure and intake. But my main point is don't do cardio because of fat loss. Do it because you enjoy it. You should fuel properly for running as well as for other exercise. And strength training is probably better for weight loss, at least from the long-term perspective, than cardio. And ideally, if you have that time, then combining two. But I would still focus more on strength training.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree with you with the kind of unhealthy relationship between running and food and wanting to burn those calories, extra calories through running, and kind of not looking at nutrition. But I definitely think it's a great tool to stay lean or lose fat, because there's actually a fact that cardio and exercise in general is going to reduce your appetite. Like, I don't want to eat after a run or after kickboxing. I'm just and that's I think most people. Say again? You say something?
No, go. I was just smiling. Yeah.
Okay, I cannot see you.
Sorry. Yeah.
I cannot see you. But yeah, and since you said about that thing about strength training, I'm going to address that. But that's true that by building more muscle, you are going to burning more calories at rest. I think you are also referring to this. Am I correct?
Yes. So the first thing is more muscle retention during a fat loss period, because when you are running, you are not really using that upper body muscle or whole body. You are using mainly your legs. So first, during weight loss, you want to be using muscles, at least to retain it, if not to build even. Like, newbie gains, somebody who starts exercising, they can lose fat and build muscle at the same time. That's a huge benefit. Let's use this. And then, building muscle requires much more energy than just, like you said, like just burning it during the exercise. And cardio is like, I would say, you are only burning that energy during the activity. The problem is also that our body gets really efficient at using that energy for endurance training. So we have different adaptations of body, like to strength training and to, let's say, endurance training. And one of the adaptations of endurance training is being more efficient. So you are using less calories during the exercise. And that is why we also hit that plateau quite quickly. We also, build new capillaries, better oxygen circulation throughout the body, more capillaries into the muscles. So basically, you can also maybe do more repetitions during strength training and so on. So that has a huge benefit in that way. But yeah, what we see, but this really happens like with endurance athletes who are training for marathons and longer distances, that despite the huge amounts of running that they do or cardio, they have problems losing weight because their body is just becomes so efficient, with calories. Maybe you have heard about the book Burn by Hermann Ponzer. He addresses this specifically. No. Yeah, so.
Okay.
And one more thing, also about the energy expenditure, is that even maybe, let's say you go for half marathon run, right? Long run on Saturday, half marathon, but then, we care about the energy balance within a day or within a week, longer period of time, right? So maybe you have burned 2,000 calories during that run, but after that running, you are more lazy, more sedentary, and so on. So throughout the day, it evens out.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a balance of things. I think I agree. I agree with everything, but I do think that running is a good tool to lose fat. Though I'm positive about that.
Yeah,
100%.
you can definitely use that, right? Strategically, I would say, and we also see that like these elite endurance athletes, they are not fat, right? Because there is a certain point where you can be eating whatever, but you cannot make up for the calories that you burn during the running. But it's not a reality for most people in general.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you eat a kind of a normal diet with a lot of processed food, it's easy to eat a lot of calories.
Right.
Yeah. So we have a question actually, and from Edo, is how to balance running and strength training. If I would run every day after strength training, how much would you run? So I'll say what I do and what I think as well. Like I run like 3 times per week, and I do 2 10K easy runs. Sometimes one of them is a bit of faster pace. And sometimes I add in a longer run, 15K, maybe 20K sometimes. But my general belief is that if you get conditioned to running, it becomes kind of easy for you because you have been running for a long time. You can run, every day, no problem. What do you think?
I think, well, I agree with you that you get conditioned to it, so that's like that efficient part, right? So what we do often is like what we get better at, we use less energy for that, it's easier to recover from it and so on. And uh, to address this question, like if like how much to run, let's say after every day of strength training and so on, I would ask Edo, what's your goal?
Yeah.
Like if you are doing strength training, do you want to, are you just aiming for general fitness, so you want to combine that cardio and strength training, then there is, I think, nothing wrong about running every day um, after that strength training, maybe, I don't know, 15 to 30 minutes, easy run, could be good. But if you are training for half marathon or whatever, now we have an endurance goal, right? So that endurance training should be prioritized, and you can find different training plans uh, which are easy accessible nowadays, whether it's Nike, Adidas, all of these brands have their application. It's pretty much a pretty good training plan or training schedule. In that case, you would not be strength training every day, and you should not be, because that's like just putting too much stress. And now he wrote that just to get the best from both stimuli. So yeah, you can definitely run after the strength training in that context, I would say, or you can do it like Stefano here, let's say 3 times a week. I think that's also pretty good. You can also, for example, like I did, I ran to gym and back from gym, which is like, let's say, 2 kilometers there, 2 kilometers back. So it's like warm up, cool down also after the gym and so on. And that's for general fitness, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think Edo didn't really, getting the best from both stimulus, it's kind of still generic, right? As you said, I think it's finding balance. I think you can progress in both. Like you can get ready for a marathon and keep getting stronger at the same time. You just need to find the right balance, right? I think that maybe, as you said, doing 10K runs every day probably is going to add a lot of toll to the body. It's better to keep it shorter, as you said, like 15, 30 minutes if you're going to be running every day, and then doing the longer runs 2 or 3 times per week. But I really think that, I also really believe relates to how conditioned you are
Yeah.
to running. I think there's people that runs a lot of kilometers every week, and they can still manage to work out, but they have built up to it for a long period of time, right?
That's a great point.
Mhm. Because I feel like running is it's a very natural thing for the human body.
Right.
Right? We don't do it, but I think it's so like it feels so natural. And when you start putting kilometers over kilometers week after week and years after years, running becomes almost like walking, or at least you can make it feel like walking. Like it can become that easy. Like there are some tribes in Kenya. I don't remember the name, but these guys run marathons basically every day to move, just
Yeah.
to move from one village to another. It's crazy. Um, but that's interesting because I personally don't know nothing about marathon. Like running plan. Like how to structure a week of running. Like let's say I'm a beginner, and like I want to run my first, I want to get to the 10K. How would you, and let's say we also pass by the initial period of, running and walking and, not doing too many kilometers per week. Okay. So we are kind of already able to do, 5K. So how do you have a specific way of planning a week of running training to in the future get to the 10K?
So we would definitely need to address like what's possible for the person, like how much commitment they can do, and split that, right? So ideally, I'm a fan specifically of, let's say, running at least 5 times a week if you are training for running. It doesn't need to be like 1 hour every day, but just having that frequency. And in that sense, then we start to get into some kind of balancing between intensity and easy runs, or just adding that volume, because volume is the most important. And basically what we see in elite athletes, that's like important to understand, is that they have a huge volume, so they cannot be training hard a lot, right? So we have this 80-20% principle. The 20% of the training is hard, like really hard, and 80% of the training, that can be like even 20 hours a week, is easy running, but really easy. I will also relate this to strength training. Like if you smash your legs, you want to progress, let's say, with your strength training, you will not be able to hit your paces or intensity during those hard sessions. So you need to manage also this. And you can do a lot of, basically, a lot of stuff if you can recover from this. So we have like this stress from sleep, nutrition, life stress, and so on. But back to the question, how I would put it. So let's say that we have 5 days a week of running training. Then I would do like one day would be like higher intensity, and higher intensity would be like, let's say, 800-meter repeats, or maybe 2-mile repeats. That means you run for 2 miles at a higher intensity, let's say at your race pace or above race pace, with, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes rest in between.
Okay.
So let's say this is what I did actually for when training for ultra, and it started with like I believe 2 times 2 miles. Next week, you have like 3 times 2 miles. Next week was like probably 3 times 2 miles. You need to adjust because you can easily overdo it in the beginning. Of course, you don't progress this forever, but we finished or established it at like 2 to 3 times 3 miles in the beginning.
Okay. In one day. So that's
that is one day. So let's say that is
one session.
Monday easy run, 45 to 60 minutes. Tuesday, this is a hard run. This is like the key session. You should be properly fueled for it, getting a lot of carbohydrates also during the workouts, probably, because that's a long workout, very intense. Next day, Wednesday, easy, just to recover legs, maybe just jogging, even bicycle if your legs are too trashed.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, maybe something faster, like 400 on a running track. You don't need to do it on a running track, but basically like 400 meters, and that is at about, let's say, 90% intensity. So you are not sprinting, but it's very intense. And you do like, let's say, you start with 5 times. And you have, again, about 3 minutes in between. And then Friday, sorry, that was Tuesday, Thursday. So Friday would be easy run, and Saturday could be a long run, like you mentioned.
Cool.
And this
is
like,
I like that.
It's a very basic schedule, but it works. And what you can be doing is then cutting the rest times between these intervals, so shortening it. But I really like if you have like heart rate monitor, I would really advise people to find their training zones and train according to them, because a lot of beginners, they just train much harder than they need to. So when you are beginning your zone 2s, or basically easy runs, what feels or what you would consider to be easy is much harder than easy.
Okay. Yeah, when easy means that you can kind of talk. It the runs that I do for the most part, because I like to listen to books, and if you go harder, I just cannot listen to books. I can listen to music, but not books. I think that what makes run fun as well, that you can change speeds. Something that I do, for example, I do sometimes I do 5 easy. No, I run. What do? I run about like 7K, super easy,
Okay.
and then I start doing sprints with like 30-second sprints and 1 minute walking. So when you switch things in running, it becomes fun as well.
Right.
And so what else we can say about running? What about shoes?
A lot of thoughts. No,
And
but generally, I started running with barefoot shoes, and a lot of people use a lot of or put a lot of emphasis on the shoes.
is
I think,
you
and
think it's not?
my personal opinion is that there is too much technology in shoes, and like for example, when you are kickboxing or whatever, you train barefoot.
Yeah.
Why not in shoes? Besides kicking someone with a shoe,
Well,
right?
I don't have the answer to that, but yeah, I definitely understand what you mean. That barefoot is our natural way
Right.
of being, right? Our foot, they're made for standing and running and walking.
So if you put like too much cushioning, because people have this association that a lot of cushioning, it's comfortable and that's good.
I have a lot of cushioning in my
Okay.
running shoes.
And that shoe is working pretty much against you, because your calves, you have that like a spring there. As you hit the ground from the ankle up, it loads the spring, so conserves that energy, and you spring up. If you have that cushion, that foam or rubber or whatever there is basically creating or absorbing that shock, that impact, and you need to produce more force. So you are becoming, let's say, less efficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all these modern carbon shoes with carbon plates, they use it in marathon nowadays, like everyone. So there is a carbon plate in that shoe, and it works as that spring. So it loads up, and it gives you like that extra boost, and it gives you maybe 1% improvement in elite athletes or whatever, but it's a much, or like over the marathon distance or whatever. But anyway, this is a problem when you like have that heavily cushioned shoes. I'm not saying like you should have zero cushion, but these heavily cushioned shoes, you don't feel when you have like bad form, and that then can lead to these injuries. Because when you go barefoot, you can immediately feel like you are doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm. So do you suggest barefoot running per week?
You know what? Like,
I mean, maybe with
I
the minimalistic shoes, not barefoot,
you
because otherwise.
don't really need to be like minimalistic, but I will take recommendations from my running coach, and I will just mention him. He was Richard Diaz. He is expert on this on not only like running shoes, but on biomechanics of running. And what he recommends is like you have the drop. So that's one important factor. So the drop is the difference between your heel elevation and the forefoot. So let's say you have 4 millimeters drop, that means your heel is elevated by 4 millimeters. So that I think that should be like the maximum that you should have. The second thing is that the foam or the rubber, because you can have even like flat shoes, like zero drop, what it's called, but you have like 2-3 centimeters foam. You don't feel any ground contact or anything. So that's also not what you want. So you want to feel that ground contact because there is a lot of neural connections on the bottom of your feet, and that also helps you to read the terrain, predict like how to land and so on, and it works really. It's amazing. So that is why sometimes like barefoot can be advantageous, and you want to have wide the toe box, so the front of the shoe. And this is a huge problem because a lot of shoes have that like narrow toe box. It's like, let's call it unnatural foot shape. It squeezes your toes and so on, and so you don't have that kind of stability and so on. So yeah, let's avoid these. So the three key factors would be like low drop below, let's say 4 millimeters, not too much cushioning, and wide toe box.
Sounds good. Those are great tips, man. Thank you, Daniel. So what else? We're almost there with the time actually. So
anyway,
I've learned a lot. I think the shoe thing, it was very interesting. For beginners, we said what's important is going slow and not do too much running at the beginning to avoid injuries. And then a good running week would be a week when you work at different intensities. You do both like 5 kilometers fast. You do easy runs as well as some sprints. And of course, like you can do more volume as you get conditioned to it, right? And that's it. Would you like to add anything for the beginner runners that will be watching this?
I think there was also a question under your reel, and there was this person who was talking about hurting his knees or his knees hurting.
Yeah, I saw that.
Let's just quickly address this. Like, I will just speak from my experience and working with people. I'm not a doctor, orthopedist, or whatever, so you can find more information on this. But I'm pretty sure that when we talk about knees, when you imagine it, you have ankle on the bottom, hips on the like up side, and in the middle is knee. If there is a problem with your hip or on the bottom near your ankles, you will feel it by hurting your knees. So if there is any kind of instability or whatever issue, it will show in that way. The typical thing is, now we are getting back to shoes, is if you have a lot of cushioning, it leads people to overstride, which means that they land with their heel in front of their center of gravity, and that impact force hits your knees.
I did have some knee problem in the beginning, and for me, it solved with a bit more bridge on my foot.
Okay.
Using an insole, actually.
There are some like physiological definitely differences. But for example, I have flat feet and I've been running in these barefoot shoes, and it actually strengthened my arch arc in the foot, so that you can also do like feet strengthening exercises and so on, just walking barefoot. But I'm not saying that everyone should walk or use barefoot shoes. One more point, if you are a heavy runner, then having cushioning is probably better than going barefoot, because heavy people have problems with this.
I would say I'm kind of heavy, 82 kilograms, and
Yeah, so there's a difference, right? Like I'm 57 kilos, so I don't have as much problem with this. So
yeah. Another thing I would say, since we're talking about the knee, is that you want to strengthen those knees as well. And since we're talking about running, as in something functional, you should aim for building strength throughout the whole range of motion of the knee, obviously without pain, and building strength over time. But yeah, I think developing that strength throughout the whole range of motion will make your knee healthier and reduce the risk of incurring
that's a nice
pain and
connection
injury.
between strength training and endurance training.
Definitely. All right, Daniel, it was nice to have you here. Do you have any free material on your account you want people to go to?
Well, definitely I have a guide that I created specifically for runners for like pre-workout fueling. It's not on my account, but if they DM me or message me, I will send it to them in upcoming days. I'm doing this manually, so it will take a little bit of time. But anyway, like when they go on my profile, they hit the pinned comment, pinned post. There is like how much to eat, which a lot of people are asking about. So there is like how to find their macros and to help them like how much to eat. And if they have any questions figuring out and personalizing this, then hit me in the DMs.
Sounds good, Daniel. So it was good to have you here. I'm sorry if I was having some weird expressions, but I cannot see you. And so that's it. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like, leave a comment, subscribe, go follow Daniel for running tips. Follow me if you want to build muscle with calisthenics. If you're on Instagram, like, leave a comment, and it was a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Thank you, everyone.